Shanti. Today's chapter is Social Reformation. In those days, it was the custom in Sindh that when anyone died, women in the family were to wear black clothes and spend their days in ritual weeping. Hridaya Pushpa's mother was caught in the same web of tradition. But after meeting Brahma Baba and experiencing the spiritual knowledge, she was able to put aside those burdens of social restraint. She overcame her shyness and her sense of limitation and broke away from all the rather dehumanizing customs which Indian women were subjected to. She threw out the dirty clothes she had been wearing and began to live in freedom and happiness. Many women who listened to Brahma Baba's liberating message found the courage to adopt these reforms. Overnight, they changed their outlook radically and sent shockwaves through their families by displaying so much personal power over their own lives. It was an unheard of development in that custom bound land. Some women who had come under Western influence previously had adopted the habit of wearing fashionable European clothes and ornaments, jewelry, and makeup. These women were living lives of leisure and were the envy of many in the community. But now many of them also came in contact with Brahma Baba and realized that they had been moving in the wrong direction. Fashion was not freedom, and indulgence did not bring happiness, nor did others' envy bring any satisfaction. Those who realized the deep truth which Brahma Baba spoke gave up their attachment to finery and idleness. With Brahma Baba's guidance and spiritual help, their dress and lifestyle became simple once again. The people of Sindh were amazed at the results, and a general feeling of respect for Om Mandali grew in the community. Habits and social customs which were recognized to be bad, but which no one had been able to change, were overturned by this spiritual knowledge. Personal problems that people had experienced throughout their lives were resolved with Brahma Baba's help. No wonder then that the fame of Om Mandali spread and many families began to send their daughters there for the satsang. Next chapter, Om Radhe. One girl stood out from all the rest. She took the message completely to her heart. Because of this total dedication, she transformed herself into one of the world's most extraordinary personalities. Her name was Radhe, and they called her Om Radhe. She was discreet, compassionate, and virtuous, and her intellect was very powerful. She was able to digest the knowledge as no one else could, revising it in her mind and bringing out its many subtle implications. In college also, she had always been first in her class. Now she was able to mobilize all her intellectual resources in the service of God, and she had become Brahma Baba's right hand in the work of the upliftment of society. From the moment she heard Brahma Baba speak the knowledge, she instantly recognized that here was the true meaning of life. Om Radhe was also one of the sweetest of singers, and here are some words from one of her early songs when she first encountered the institution. Oh, friends, what shall I show you? And how can I show you what I saw? What I saw in Om Mandali. Oh, friends, how can I describe such joy? The voice of Om. Like an arrow pierced my mind, and calm and quiet I became, and all my troubles, all my stories, all my sorrows died away. Before Om Radhe started coming to the satsang or had ever met Brahma Baba, her presence had been recognized. Once in a vision, Jashodaji, Baba's wife, experienced that Radhe would be Empress Lakshmi in the future, and that she, Jashoda, would give her the kingdom. Once Radhe arrived, the meaning of that vision became clear, for Radhe quickly became a storehouse of knowledge and energy, and so her name was changed to Jagadamba Saraswati, the world mother, the goddess of knowledge. Next chapter, family reactions. Brahma Baba did his best to interest his own relatives in taking Shiv Baba's knowledge, believing that charity begins at home. People from all over the country were arriving to witness God's descent and receiving many spiritual experiences, so why should his own relatives not take benefit of this event? He could not let them pass up such a great opportunity without making an effort. Baba's wife and daughter-in-law had always been religiously minded and had always had the highest respect for Baba. They knew without doubt that someone else was regularly taking over Baba's body and speaking through his mouth, and the power with which that other personality was exerting was so intense, the guidance offered so high and noble, the language so poetic, the ideas so liberating, that it was clear to them that this could be none other than Shiva, the Supreme Soul, God. They did their best to follow his directions. They practiced stabilizing themselves in soul consciousness. They made continuous efforts to integrate in their minds the various points of knowledge. They constantly worked on improving their level of virtue and detachment. Finding them well set on the right path, Baba's attention turned to his older daughter. Before Shiv Baba's arrival, Brahma Baba had married her into a wealthy Sindhi family. Now, after acquiring the knowledge, he felt he had made a mistake, tying her down into a relationship. He felt that it was his duty to show her the way of the knowledge. Here is what this daughter, who is known as PK, Tadi Nirmal Shanta, has to say about the experience. Before becoming God's instrument, my father's life was really already full of princely decorum and devotion. So Baba gave me in marriage to a person who was wealthy and was of great prestige, the Mukhi of the city. There was nothing lacking in my father-in-law's house as far as worldly happiness was concerned. Before I married, when I still lived with Baba, I was also happy and completely carefree. Baba never allowed us to feel that anything was lacking, and he brought us up with great love and affection, great love and attention. I did not realize how much until later. Yet I had never had any attraction for puja or worship. I had everything, so what should I pray for? But once the Supreme Father, Shiva, entered my father's body, everything changed for me. There seemed to be no more love and attention coming to us from Baba. Of course, when I went to visit him, I felt that he was more gentle and loving than ever. But it was different. Now he was intoxicated in divine love. The whole world had become his family. I could not speak to my parents as before. Now they made me hear God's knowledge at every opportunity. It was disconcerting, and I didn't understand at first that it was all because of their concern for my welfare. They wanted me to follow this highest path, not to miss this golden opportunity. But at first, the truth of it all passed me by. I only saw that they had become different and seemed more distant. Yet one day, the reality of what was occurring finally registered in my mind. A festival was being celebrated, and Baba invited me for dinner. When I got there, I saw a number of girls and mothers listening intently to the knowledge, while another group was enjoying a dance. It was not an ordinary dance. They seemed in a state of deep concentration, and I went closer to investigate. At first, I didn't like the dance they were doing, but then I stopped watching the movements of their feet and began to inspect their faces. They wore a look that I had never seen before, but that I recognized instantly, a look of absolute, otherworldly bliss. They were in a trance, completely unaware of the world around them. What scenes were they seeing in their mind's eyes, and how could they all be so attuned to each other's movements? The dance became more intricate, and it soon dawned on me that actually these women had a great deal of talent. In fact, not even professional dancers could have moved with such grace and skill. They never used to dance at all. How could they be doing this so perfectly now? I knew that they were not in an ordinary state of consciousness, but had no idea that internally they had been transported to Satyug, to heaven, and that they were dancing with Sri Krishna himself. For the moment, for the moment, they were living in the future, in their next lifetime, in the golden age. It was this extraordinary vision, conferred by God, which gave them the power of such a dance. On their faces, I saw peace, love, and a unity with God. I felt the same energy, the sense of grace, the power of purity that charged the atmosphere. When the dance appeared to be over, I asked one of them what she had experienced. But I saw right away that she was still deep in that consciousness, far beyond sound, and not yet able or ready to leave that happy place in order to explain. It must have been difficult for her even to speak. In a slow, barely audible voice, she said, I will tell you tomorrow. I had a tremendous desire to hear what she would say. So I went to Baba and told him to send me the card tomorrow, and I would come. Baba said, all right, daughter, let us see tomorrow. I didn't feel happy with this answer. I said, Baba, why do you speak like this? Baba said, we have the idea to send the card, but let us see what happens tomorrow. I had been brought up with such complete attention, receiving everything I asked for, that I was unprepared for this response. Baba had never spoken to me before in such an ambiguous manner, and in my ignorance, I took it to be an insult. Before, if I had told Baba to bring down the stars from heaven, he would have done so. Now he was hesitating even to offer me the use of the car. I got very angry and left the house. But Baba followed me, put me in the car, and drove me back to my father in law's house, making sure I arrived safely. Yet I felt he was just trying to patch things up, and as I got down from the car at my destination, I said in a huff, if you don't send me the car tomorrow, I will not come. I remembered very clearly what Baba said then, because it struck me to the quick. His eyes were laughing, though his voice was subdued. Daughter, he said, would you really know what is going to happen tomorrow? I responded, whatever happens tomorrow, we will see tomorrow. And I went inside. I fell asleep almost immediately, but around 2 or 2:30 in the morning, I awoke with a start. A flood of light filled the room, an unearthly light. I knew it had no physical source. In the midst of the illumination was Baba. At first, I could not believe what I was seeing. When the vision faded, I closed my eyes and tried to sleep again. I told myself that because of my talk with Baba earlier that evening, he had come to my mind in such a powerful way that it was nothing more than a kind of dream. Yet after a little, the room was once more inundated with divine light. It was beyond belief, but I forced myself to sleep again. It was too much for my mind to comprehend, and yet there was to be no escape from the truth. For a third time, Baba appeared, and this time Sri Krishna was standing beside him. Baba spoke to me in the sweetest tone I had ever heard. Daughter, wake up. You have to do the work of world upliftment. His words were like arrows which pierced my heart. I felt transformed in a single instant. Baba, I spoke in reply, God really is within you. I did not recognize you. I will do whatever you ask. I fell asleep again with blissful feelings spreading throughout my mind. By morning, the visionary scene had repeated itself many times over in my consciousness, and I felt I should go immediately to see Baba. But as soon as I tried to get out of bed, I began to feel such tremendous pain in my body that I fell back helpless. I remembered Baba's words, Daughter, whatever happens, let us see. The words rang in my ears. He had known the future, he had known. I fell deep into thought, all my pain forgotten. All I could think of was Baba, that God had actually entered my Baba. All the knowledge he had spoken to me so often, I tried to recapture now. I had taken it all so lightly. We could not recognize him in his true identity, being in an ordinary human form. Such power, yet we could not recognize it. At sunset, Baba himself came to see me. When he came in the room, I began to shed tears of love. I could not control myself. I was filled with repentance and recognition. I embraced him. Baba, I said through my tears, now I recognize you. Now I will do what you ask me to do. From that day, I entered a new life. Om Shanti.